Very good morning to the students of class 10th, and I welcome you to the video lecture series on geography, your first chapter of class 10, that is resources and development. You see, students, this chapter has been included into your curriculum because this is a very important aspect which relates to the country's economic development on the whole, as well as the ease with which an individual can lead a life, resources and its development. So here in this chapter we are going to understand the two different concepts of resource development. One is the usage of resources for the development of a society as a whole, and the second aspect is development of the resources themselves so that these resources can be utilized for a long run. As we have varied time, we have already heard this statement that resources merely does not belongs to the present generation. They have not been given to us by our ancestors, they have been given to us by our generation, coming generation. So we have to keep these resources safe for the coming generation also. So I'm going to proceed further in this topic. First thing is that you need to understand that what does resource means. So resource is anything in the material form or which can be felt that has a capacity to satisfy human needs. Anything that has a capacity to satisfy any human want is termed as a resource. Now you're just sitting inside your room, you can just visualize, you can just analyze so many things you are making use at the time when you are reading this chapter, you are studying this chapter itself. You can analyze yourself that there are so many things which you are making use of. You have a pen in your hand, you are making use of the light, the ACs, the fan, the room you are sitting in. It is built up of various kind of resources which have been brought together to construct that room. Even the textbook which you are reading, even the glasses, the spectacles which you are wearing, the pen you are writing with, even that is a one kind of a resource, because it is facilitating your work, it is serving your requirement, it is satisfying your want. So anything that has a capacity to satisfy our want is known as resources. Resources is a very important aspect of an individual's life, not only an individual but the entire country or an economy as a whole, because resources have direct bearing on the development of your country. Why this topic has been taken up in class 10th? Yes, because it is an important aspect that relates to our country as a whole and as well as an individual's life. Resources are directly related to the development of the country. Why do we say that Middle East countries are very rich with the petroleum resources? Because petroleum is the one such resource that is highly demanded all over the world in order to run the economy, and those are the countries who are rich in petroleum resources. That is why their development level is different from other part of the world. So resources are very important for the economic development of the country. Moreover, we need to discuss about these resources at length because these resources have direct bearing on the life of an individual. Now you can well imagine that there are so many resources which we are making use of in our daily routine life. We are breathing the fresh oxygen, we are drinking the water, we have our surrounding environment, the ecosystem, complete ecosystem that balances the life on the earth. So it is very important for us to conserve these resources. It is a dire need of the hour that we must talk about resources, we must take steps to conserve our resources. But before proceeding further, to understand resources in a better manner, we first need to classify these resources in such a category so that our understanding becomes easy and precise. So first of all, we need to understand the classification of the resources. For classifying resources or classifying anything for that matter, it is not only resources, classifying anything into any category, we need to have criteria. So here resources are being classified on different bases, and therefore we are going to understand these resources in a better manner. So first let us understand what are the bases on which the resources can be classified, and this question is usually asked in your CBSE board exams also, that mention the basis on which the resources can be classified. Or you get a 5 marks question entirely, that is give a classification of the resources making use of the flow chart. So first of all, let us understand the basis of classification of the resources. The first base of classification is the origin. That means that from where the resources are coming into being, how they have taken birth. So on the basis of origin, we have the biotic resource and the abiotic resource. Biotic resources are those resources. Biotic, the name itself symbolizes, the name itself gives you the meaning. Biotic means living. Anything that has life is called biotic. So biotic resources are those resources which are living, they are growing, they are reproducing themselves. These are the biotic resources, and various examples you can give here with reference to biotic resources, such as animals, plants, human beings being most important, the marine life around us is also included into the biotic resources. Then we have the second category, that is abiotic resource. Abiotic resources are those resources which are non-living, but you should be very particular while giving examples over here, that because we have not taken our classification further into man-made and natural resources, therefore here you are only going to give examples which are related to natural things. You can give examples like rocks are the non-living things. Then you have various other abiotic resources, like minerals are present on the earth's surface, they are also the abiotic resources. So on the first base which we have understood so far is on the basis of origin, that is how they have come into being, that is abiotic and biotic resource. Now the second base on which we can distinguish the resources are renewable resources, that is exhaustibility. That means whether those resources comes to an end or they do not. Then further we have on the basis of exhaustibility. Exhaustibility means whether these resources are coming to an end or not. So on the basis of exhaustibility, we have the resources which can be classified into two categories, that is the renewable and non-renewable resources. Now again, from the word itself you can come to know what are renewable resources and what are non-renewable resources. Well, the renewable resources are those resources which can be renewed again and again. There is no external force which will be responsible for its occurring in the nature on its own. It is replenished every day. You can give various examples such as the oxygen which we are breathing, the water that is present on the earth's surface. Human beings know how they are involved in making these elements available to the mankind on the earth's surface. It is being replenished every day out of the natural phenomena which are responsible in the making of these resources. The second one is non-renewable resource. Now you need to understand one thing with reference to non-renewable resource is that there are no resources which are non-renewable as such. There are no resources which cannot be formed all over again. But yes, there is a category which is called non-renewable resources, and these resources have been given this name non-renewable resource because these resources are going to take millions of years to be formed again. The rate of consumption of these resources is much higher as compared to rate of formation. Therefore, these resources have been given this name, that is non-renewable resources. For example, the fossil fuel, minerals which are present, or even the water, even the forest that we are depleting, the soil that we are depleting, all these things are going to take several years to be formed again. So if they are depleted or they are exhausted once, maybe for some time period the coming generation may not be able to see these resources again. That is why they are known as non-renewable resources. The third base on which we can distinguish between the resources is on the basis of ownership. Now on the basis of ownership, you have four different categories, that is individual ownership, community ownership, national and international. The names themselves are very much clarifying the meanings also. Individual resources means the resources that belongs to an individual. They can be your cars, they can be your personal property, your houses, your plots, or any of your businesses, etc. like that. These are your own individual resources which you are the owners of. Second kind of resource in this category is the community owned resources. Any utility, public utility things like parks, gardens, roads, wells, tube wells, which everybody together as a community is making use of, that is known as community resources. Here I have already given you the example: temples, public places like parks, or you're sitting on the bench. That bench belongs to everybody on a whole, whosoever's purpose it is serving. Then you have the third category, that is the national resources. National resources are those resources that belongs to one particular country because it lies within the political borders of that country. That is why they are known as national resources. Now, one thing which is very important to be noticed over here is that whether it is an individual resource or it is a community resource, directly or indirectly, that is also a national resource, because whether as an individual or community, those resources are lying within the borders of the country. Therefore, they are also included in the category of national resources. And second thing which you also must understand over here is that even if a resource belongs to an individual, even if the resource is your private property, but that can be taken by the government after giving adequate compensation to the person to whom that property belongs to. So your individual property is also your national property, as it can be used by the government for the public good, for the sake of public good. For example, if a national highway is to be constructed and there is various private land that is coming in between that road, so what government do? In that case, it is very important to give connectivity to the area, to give connectivity to the region. Therefore, government can buy that private land which is lying or coming in between that road, but government will have to give adequate compensation to the people in lieu of buying that land from people. So in that case, even your community and individual properties are also indirectly national resources only. The last one which we have is international resources. Very clear from the name, which belongs to all the nations of the country. Obviously, there is no such resource that belongs to everybody, but yes, if the countries are sharing the borders with that particular resource, then there will be some kind of a treaty, that is agreement and treaties, that is to be signed between the neighboring countries, and according to that treaties and strategy, the exploitation of resources can be done in that area that lies in the international resource region. For example, you can give an example over here, that is Indian Ocean. Now, Indian Ocean, just because Indian Ocean's name is India, it does not mean that Indian Ocean completely belongs to Indians or India. There is a limit, that is the water territorial limits of 22.2 kilometers or 12 nautical miles. Up to this limit, yes, we have to depot our navy, we have to employ our navy in order to take care of the water territorial borders, and we have exclusive rights to exploit the natural resources that lies between 22.2 kilometers or 12 nautical miles from the main land border up till 12 nautical miles, and beyond that Indian Ocean belongs to the is known as international resource. And in order to exploit natural resources beyond 12 nautical miles, there has to be an agreement which has to be abided by, international agreement and treaties which are to be abided by in order to exploit the resources lying beyond 22.2 kilometers of Indian borders. So this was the third classification on the basis of ownership. Then we have an important classification, that is status of development. Status of development means whether those resources have been developed or not. If they are developed, they are known as simply developed resources. If they are not developed, or we are not sure that those resources are actually existing, then they are known as potential resources. Further, we have two more categories in this, that is stock and reserve. So let us see first of all in detail, what do you mean by potential resources? Potential, as the name itself suggests, potential means more capacity. So these are those resources which might be present. We are not very sure of their presence because we have not conducted any survey about them. Their quantities have not been ascertained so far. Surveys have not been conducted. So they are only under assumption that yes, these resources may be available in our country. So those resources are called potential resources, which if we are going to find, we may not find. These are known as potential resources. For example, Himalayas, sedimentary rock formation, young folded mountains, because it is sedimentary rocks, so fossil fuels are present in the sedimentary rock. So there are possibilities that it may contain fossil fuels in large quantities, but they are only assumptions. As long as they are assumption, they will be potential resources. And once we are working on those assumptions, we are conducting survey, we are collecting proper data about the presence of those resources at a particular region, and we have ascertained ourselves that yes, those resources are available, then they become the actual resources or the developed resources. So from this clarification only, you have come to know that what does developed resources means. Developed resources are those resources which have been thoroughly surveyed upon, and their quantities and qualities have been ascertained. There is a department, that is Geological Survey of India, that keeps on conducting these surveys, and they keep on searching for the potential resources, and they convert into developed resources after the surveys have been conducted. So potential resources are which may be present, and developed resources are which are already, we know that they are present, and we are making use of them. Further, we have the stock. Stock are those resources which are present with us. We even know that these resources are present at the time. We can even use, but we are not using them because we do not have adequate technical know-how. Proper technology is not available with us in order to exploit those resources. So they are known as stock resources. Then we have the last category in this classification, that is of reserve. Reserves are those resources which we know that they are present also, we have the technical know-how also, but due to any reason, we have postponed the use of those resources for some time. Maybe we are considering them for the future generation, maybe we are not in requirement of those resources right now, or due to any other reason we have postponed the use of those resources, that is known as reserves. So this was the classification of the resources. You can represent this classification with the help of flowchart also. There are 4 bases on which we are going to classify these resources. Number 1 is on the basis of origin, number 2 is on the basis of exhaustibility, number 3 is on the basis of ownership, and number 4 is on the basis of status of development. We have 4 major bases on which we have further classified our resources. This completes your 5 marks question, and you can always supplement your answer with the flowchart. That will always help you to fetch better marks. Further, if we are moving into this chapter, we have the next topic, that is development of resources. Why do we need to develop? I have already told you initially in the beginning of the chapter that we are going to discuss this chapter from 2 bases, 2 concepts, that is development as an individual, as a country. We want to develop ourselves, we are going to use resources for our development. Secondly, we also need to develop these resources because they are being depleted, they are being used recklessly, and they need to be conserved, because even if we want to save our own races, we need to save these and conserve these resources. So here we are going to talk about these resources from that point of view, from conservation point of view. So this is development and resources. First, we need to understand that why do we need to conserve these resources? We need to conserve these resources because we are using these resources unjudiciously. we are using these resources at a very high rate. There is a natural phenomena that is going on in the environment that keeps on replenishing these resources again and again, time and again, and it is available for the usage in the environment, but only as long as there is a pace between the use of resources and time to replenish these resources. Whenever there will be a disbalance in this space, definitely we are going to run deficit on these resources. So we need to conserve these resources, and we have usually heard this statement before also, that resources does not merely belongs to us, it belongs to everybody as a whole. Therefore, because we got these resources from our ancestors, and we have to hand over these resources further to our generations also. Therefore, resources are to be conserved. So with reference to this, there is a very, very important concept which you need to understand over here is sustainable development. Sustainable development, first you need to define this. Sustainable development means the development which is the development is a very important concept, and it must take place. Development is very, very imperative. We have come to the present form of human being from the early man. Everybody, everything on the earth surface is developing. So developing is an inevitable phenomena, but we cannot compromise with the environment for our development. So what do you understand by sustainable development? Sustainable development means when you are developing but not at the cost of environment. Without damaging the environment, development should take place. That development will be termed as sustainable development. Then a very important part with reference to sustainable development is the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit that took place in 1992. This was for the first time that 100 heads or different countries met together at Brazil in Rio de Janeiro to discuss the rising environmental concern. The pollution levels, the depletion of the resources, depletion of the ozone, increasing global warming. These were the major concerns of the environmentalists at that time, and even it continues even today. And now, because they have reached onto such a scale where it is direly needed to be discussed. So one such effort was in the form of Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, on which the major focus was on sustainable development, social and economic development of a society as a whole. But the concentric thought was focus on sustainable development, development without harming the environment. So with reference to that, various pros and cons were discussed about development in this Earth Summit, and finally Agenda 21 was adopted. Now what is Agenda 21? Agenda 21 was the declaration which was signed by world leaders in 1992 at United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It aims at achieving global sustainable development. It also includes the agenda which says that this development task or the sustainable development should take place at the grassroots level. As in our government system, we have the Panchayati Raj at the grassroots level. Similarly, it was thought that these efforts of conserving our environment must be taken up at the grassroots level. So a local Agenda 21 was also framed, that and local level government agencies and people were involved in combating this environmental concern, fighting against the different types of problem which we are facing, ecological imbalances, global warming, etc., at the grassroots level, so that maximum benefit can be reaped. Very important question about Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. You can get this question for 3 marks or even for 7 marks point of view. So you have to write it accordingly. The next topic that we have is resource planning. Now we have resources at our disposal. We can use these resources for various purposes. We are using these resources for various purposes. The importance of these resources depends upon the time at which we are using it, plus the requirement for which it is being used, plus the skills with which we are using these resources. So very important concept that relates to resources is resource planning, that how should these resources be used. So the answer to this is resource planning. Why do we need to use resources in a planned manner? We need to use resources in a planned manner, and this question is specifically with reference to our own country, although that it goes equally for all the countries, but here we are specially emphasizing on country like India. So this question again can be asked for 3 marks or 5 marks point of view. This question is normally asked as that why resource planning is important for country like India. Now this is a very important question. Now you see that we have regional disparities with reference to availability of resources. One resource might be available in one region and it may not be available in another region. For that matter, you can also consider export and imports, that why do we ultimately have to involve into export and import? Why the global trade has to be there? Why the international trade is to be given so much of importance? Why multinational companies are coming up? This is because no region is self-sufficient in itself for its overall development. We are dependent on each other for one thing or the other. India is endowed with one kind of resource which another country may not be. Other countries are endowed with another resource which India might not be. So we are internationally trading with one another so that we can fulfill each and every kind of our need. So especially we are talking about this with reference to India. Now you can just visualize your own country or this map. You can see this map over here. Through this map you will be able to analyze that due to the physiography of India, different types of minerals are available in our country. Now if you talk about the northern part of our country, it is agriculturally rich belt. If you go to the southern India, it is endowed with different types of mineral resources which is present in South India. Going to the eastern part of our country, the wettest place on the earth, that is Mawsyngram, is present in the northeast India, whereas going towards the western part of earth, one of the desert, the Thar desert, is present in our country. So this different physiography helps in development of different types of mineral wealth or different type of resources. Different types of works can be carried on in different region. If North India is agriculturally rich, Southern India is rich in industrial belt, but there has to be a balance which is to be struck. North India cannot sustain alone on agriculture. Similarly, South India cannot alone sustain on industries. Western part is so dry that we have to bring water from the eastern part to the western part, and eastern part is so prone to flood that if that water is not diverted to other part of the country, this region may continuously continue to be under floods, and which can be devastating in one form. So there has to be a balance which is to be struck in order to attain complete and all-round development. Therefore, resources are to be used in a planned manner. Regional disparity with reference to development. Development can only be considered when the region is developing on all-round basis. If you see Punjab and Haryana, why was Green Revolution an unsuccessful story later on? Why it could not contribute to everything, or all-round development? Why all-round development could not take place? Because Green Revolution was one such package technology that could, or the benefits could only be reaped by the rich farmers, because it was an expensive technology. Moreover, it was only concerned with few crops. It was only concerned with food grains. As you know, that Green Revolution is also known as Grain Revolution. Had it been an overall technology, our agriculture would have got a complete boost, and there was no other requirement in order to develop our agriculture. So similarly, development can only be considered if it is on all round basis. If Punjab and Haryana is alone flourishing in our country, we cannot call India as a developed country. Or if industrially only the southern part of our country is flourishing, it will not be considered as all round development. So it is very important that development must take place on all round basis, and for that we need to use resources in a planned manner. So that is why resource planning is very important. Now the next question and the next topic deals with that how the resources can be planned, how the resources can be used in a planned manner, or what are the steps involved in resource planning. So there are 3 steps involved in resource planning. First is identification and creating an inventory of the resources. I will explain you that one by one. First, let me complete the 3 steps. Second is having a proper planning and strategy, matching your inventory and the resources which you have, and having an institutional setup also. And third, last one is matching those strategies to the development required in our country. That means the strategies which you have made, those plannings are to be implemented in order to bring the development wherever it is necessary or with reference to whatever development is required. So let us take these steps individually. The first one is identification of the resources. Now I will explain you in the simple word. The first step is to identify the resources which are lying around you in your country. What resources are present in your country? First you have to identify those. What kind of physiography we have and what kind of resources are developed in those regions. Now you see, agriculturally, because alluvial soil is brought down by the rivers which flows down the Himalayan region, it brings all the fertile alluvium along with it, which is deposited in the northern India because of the level land which is present in the northern plain or the peninsular region, which we called the northern region, which we called North Indian plains. So that is agriculturally rich. We know that we can make the strategies and planning in such a way that is beneficial from agriculture point of view. Similarly, we identify that peninsular region, the Deccan Plateau region, because of its origin, its physiography is such that it allows the growth of different types of minerals over there. So we will make strategies. We have identified that it is a mineral rich region, so industries can be set up over here. So first thing is to identify that what kind of minerals are present in which region. After identifying those resources, we will be creating an inventory. Now what do you mean by inventory? Inventory is stock. For example, in your schools, before the exams set in, before the exams start, your school may be piling up the stationery, the sheets, the thread, the stamping, etc. Question paper printing, all these are stock. So inventory means stockpiling everything. So we need to create the stock. After identifying, we need to create an inventory of the resources which we have. That will be the statistical data. Survey will be done, statistical data will be created, that how much resources we have presently in numbers. A clear-cut data is presented. The second step that involves is evolving a planning structure which is endowed with appropriate technology. Very, very important aspect of using a resource. Any resource will be absolutely useless if you do not have proper technology to bring that resource into use. So resources were present even in the early times, but we were not able to use them because we did not have the skills of using it at that time. Now when we have the technology, at this time we are making use of resources differently. So very important is to have appropriate planning first, and then to have appropriate strategies, and then to have appropriate technology in order to bring those resources actually into use. The third step Second step will also include institutional setup. Now, institutional setup means there has to be a clear cut setup of institution, departments who are going to ultimately put all these things into action. Now, if you have a plan in a paper, it is not going to work until and unless it is actually brought into practice. So there has to be an institution, a proper department which is ultimately going to carry out these plans, will bring it into action, so that whatever is in the paper, that can be practically made feasible. So there has to be proper institutional setup also. For example, if elections are to be conducted, we need to have political parties, we need to have election commission, we need to have proper ballot system, we need to have booths for that, counting, etc., etc. So all these tasks will be taken up by a group of people who will be responsible for upholding these tasks in a free and fair manner. So there has to be a clear cut institution that is to be set up for doing these works on practical basis. Last step that is involved in resource planning is matching the resource development plans with overall national development plan. Now you have to identify that what areas we need to work on, where the development needs are, which area is lying or lacking behind, which area is running fast, and then we need to strike a balance between those areas, and we will work accordingly. Whatever we have identified, whatever planning and strategies we have made, finally we are going to bring it into action, and we will match the developmental needs of our country, and we will work accordingly in order to actually bring that development. So these are the steps involved in resource planning. 3 steps involved. Again, this question can come for 3 marks or 5 marks, and you have to write it accordingly. The very, very important concept over here is that availability of resource is necessary condition for the development of any region, but mere availability of resource is the in the absence of corresponding technology and institution may hinder the development. So very important aspect, you must understand that if you do not have appropriate setup of institution, and if you do not have appropriate technology, you cannot make use of these resources. These resources, petroleum was lying there underneath the earth's surface right from the beginning, but early man did not have the technology to use it, so they could not, they had to move on their own feet. They could not live a permanent life. They were the gatherers, they were the hunters. And how our life totally is different from the life of early man. This differentiation is largely attributed to the technology which we have today. So technology is very, very important. And another very important aspect with reference to usage of the resources is human beings. Had these human beings not been there, had the brains of human being not been at work, these resources would have been just a futile material lying in the environment. A rock is nothing, a piece of a stone and accumulated mud together, as long as it is not used by human beings. So keep in mind that the most important resource is only a human resource. Human resource are the ultimate resources who are going to convert each and every resource into actual resources. Then the last topic from this segment is conservation of resources. Very, very important aspect of resource, conservation of resources. Now you see why conservation of resource is important. Whatever has been sent on this earth's surface, there is a reason behind its presence. Everything has been given its role to be played on the earth's surface. We human beings, because of the technology in our hand, we have thought that we can conquer anything, but it is nothing as such. Everything that is present on the earth's surface has a certain role to play. So conservation of resources is very important, and because we have elaborately understood about resources, so it is even more important for us to understand that without these resources, human existence is just not possible. depleting these resources, using them in an unjudicious manner, indiscriminate cutting of trees, global warming, pollution in the water, air pollution, industrial pollution, then deterioration of the soil, uh, erosion of the soil. These are different problems which we are facing, and we are facing only because enough of steps have not been taken in order to protect and conserve the resources. So we must analyze that in order to have a sustainable development, in order to continue human races on the earth's surface, it is very, very imperative to focus on the conservation of resources equally as we focus on the usage of resources. So thank you so much. We will be continuing further chapter in my upcoming videos. Thank you.